Once upon a time, in a peaceful village nestled between green hills and fragrant orchards, lived a young girl named Amina. She was 16, but she had already known more sorrow than many grown people. Amina had been born into a modest but joyful family. Her mother grew tomatoes, okra, and peppers to sell at the market. Her father tended a large orchard filled with mango, papaya, and orange trees. They were not wealthy, but they loved each other deeply. Each evening, after work, the family gathered under the great mango tree before their clay house. They laughed together and shared slices of sweet papaya. But everything changed when Amina turned 8. Her mother fell ill. First, a simple cough, then chest pains, then overwhelming weakness. The village healer tried to cure her, but nothing worked. One morning, her mother closed her eyes and never opened them again. Amina did not understand death. She only knew that her mother would never wake up. Her father, heartbroken, cried like a child. He stopped working. The fruits rotted on the trees, and he began to drink. He often sat at the roadside, staring into the distance as if waiting for someone. A year later, he died too. Some said of grief, others whispered of poisoned palm wine. Amina became an orphan. She was sent to live with her aunt, Mama Farah, who shared a house with her husband and 2 children. Their home was big. Their children attended school. But for Amina, life turned bitter. Every morning, before the rooster crowed, she was shaken awake with shouts or kicks. Get up, wash the clothes, fetch water, sweep the yard, and don't touch the food. This is for my children. Amina was not allowed to go to school. While her cousins left in crisp uniforms carrying bright notebooks, she lifted a heavy basket of fruits and vegetables onto her head and walked through the dusty paths calling fresh mangoes, red tomatoes, sweet papaya. The sun burned her neck. Her bare feet cracked on the hot earth, but she stood tall. Amina never stole, never begged, and never sought favors from men. She believed her life would one day change. She carried beauty not only in her soft skin and deep eyes, but in the quiet strength reflected in her gaze. Men noticed her. Some whistled, others muttered crude words. She ignored them all. She refused to end up like so many young girls, burdened with a baby and without a future. Amina dreamt of peace, of freedom. One evening, as she walked home along a narrow path lined with banana trees, basket nearly empty after a good day, the sky darkened. She hurried, trying to outrun the coming rain. Then she heard footsteps behind her. 2 men, familiar faces from the market, appeared, men who usually greeted her kindly. But today, their faces were shadowed. Amina, come, one said, grabbing her wrist roughly. The path was deserted. Her cries vanished beneath the thick banana leaves. That night, the 2 men harmed her terribly. When they left, they threatened her to keep silent. Amina made her way home in pain. Her aunt scolded her for returning late. She said nothing. She did not cry. She simply lay on her mat behind the kitchen and swallowed her grief. Days passed. No one noticed her silence or her slow steps. She continued to work as if nothing had happened, though something inside her had shattered. One night, Amina walked to the sacred river Kale, where ancient spirits were said to dwell. She knelt by the water and whispered, let them feel what I have felt. Let them lose what they used against me. The wind stopped. The trees stilled. From the mist emerged an old woman. I heard your voice, she said. I know what was done to you. She handed Amina a small calabash filled with water and herbs. Bathe with this each night for 7 days. On the 8th, any man who approaches you with a wicked heart will lose what he cherishes most. Before Amina could speak, the woman vanished. She followed the instructions faithfully. On the 8th morning, screams echoed through the village. 2 bodies had been found near the river, the men who had harmed her. Some called it coincidence, others blamed drink. But the old women of the market exchanged grave glances. They touched what should never be touched, they whispered. Amina said nothing. Years went by. At 20, her aunt suddenly allowed her to keep her earnings. Amina saved patiently, then one day left the house with only her large basket and a small sack of clothes. She rented a tiny hut at the edge of the market and opened her own fruit stall. Her produce seemed blessed. Mangoes sweeter, tomatoes juicier, papayas more fragrant. At first, only women bought from her, but soon men crowded her stall, offering gifts and sweet words, trying to charm her. Amina smiled politely, but never let her guard down, and whenever a man entered her hut with dark intentions, the old curse awakened. A simple kiss, forced or stolen, was enough to awaken the ancient force resting within Amina. It was not a fire that burned skin, nor a wind that could be seen. It was something older, heavier, woven into her fate the night she knelt by the river Kale. The instant a man approached her with a heart tainted by desire or deceit, the air inside her hut thickened like wet clay. The lantern hissed and flared, shadows sharpened as if alive, and an invisible grip coiled around the intruder's body. The moment their lips brushed her skin, the curse responded. The men froze, as if caught between breaths, their faces twisted, not from physical pain, but from the sudden, terrifying recognition of a power greater than anything they had ever imagined. Their legs weakened, their pride shattered. Moments later, they collapsed and scrambled out of her hut on their hands and knees, groaning and cursing their own foolishness, dragging themselves into the night like animals humbled by the spirits. Word traveled faster than smoke in the dry season. Stories changed shape as they moved from ear to ear. Some whispered Amina was a witch. Others claimed she was born of the river spirits, a daughter of water and vengeance. A few elders murmured she carried a curse older than the village itself, older even than the mango tree under which she had once laughed with her parents. But no one knew the truth. No one dared to ask. Fear built walls thicker than stone. One blazing afternoon, when the sun pressed down hard enough to make the earth crack, a man of God arrived at her stall. He approached with the confident ease of someone who believed himself immune to human frailty. His robe was crisp and white, his sandals clean despite the dust, his smile warm in a way that felt rehearsed. "Peace be with you, my sister," he said, raising his hands in blessing. "The Lord has guided my steps to you." Amina lifted her eyes briefly, nodded, and continued arranging her tomatoes. He returned the next day, and the next. At first he preached loudly, calling the market to repentance, and warning of women who led men astray. His voice carried over the stalls like a drumbeat. Then, when the crowd dispersed, he softened his tone. He brought Amina little offerings, fresh bread, a bottle of palm oil, a wooden cross carved with care. He gave advice she never asked for, offering to help her cleanse her life, asking to pray inside her hut for her protection. Finally, one evening, convinced he was chosen to save her, he stepped inside her hut with the certainty of a shepherd reclaiming a lost sheep. He rested his hands on her shoulders and murmured a hurried prayer. Then he leaned closer, intending to purify her with a kiss he believed she lacked the courage to refuse. The curse struck him before he touched her. His scream tore through the night like a hunting horn. He staggered backward, clutching himself, shaking as though the earth had opened beneath him. He fell into the dust outside her door and crawled away, eyes wide with terror, as if chased by a fire only he could see. The next morning, the church remained silent. No sermon, no hymns, no faithful gathered. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. Amina returned to her stall, calm as the river at dawn. Her fruits glistened in the sunlight. Her voice was soft but steady. Nothing in her posture betrayed the storm that had passed, but fate was shifting. One day, a young man named Kalam approached her stall. He walked with the quiet confidence of someone used to work, not preaching. His hands were calloused, his eyes gentle, his steps unhurried. He did not watch her the way others did. He looked at her as if she were simply a person. No mystery, no temptation, no danger. He bought mangoes, thanked her politely, and left. Then he came again the next day, and again the next week. He helped her lift baskets without being asked. He swept aside fallen leaves so customers wouldn't slip. He brought small repairs for the wooden table where she displayed her fruit. Sometimes he bought more than he needed, handing the extra fruit to children running barefoot through the market. Finally, one warm afternoon, Amina asked, "Why do you always come here?" He smiled, a gentle, honest smile that softened his whole face. "Because you remind me of my mother." Amina froze. No man had ever said such a thing to her. Men usually spoke to her with hunger, not affection. His answer settled in her chest like cool water after a long, hot drought. Months drifted by. Kellam repaired the hole in her roof before the rainy season arrived. He told her stories of his late mother, her laughter, her strength, the way she faced hardship without bending. He listened when Amina spoke. He listened even when she didn't. He never asked to enter her hut, never tried to touch her, never hinted at desire. He waited with the patience of someone who understood that trust grows slowly, like a seed in dry soil. Then came the night of heavy rain. Thunder rolled far beyond the hills, a deep trembling that shook the leaves of the old mango trees. The river Kale swelled under the storm, its dark waters swirling like restless spirits. The wind carried the scent of wet earth and distant lightning. Amina sat alone on the muddy bank, raindrops streaming down her face. But not all of them belonged to the sky. For years, she had held her grief inside like a stone sealed in clay, silent, unmoving, untouched. But something had shifted in her chest these past days, something fragile, cracking beneath the weight of everything she had survived. Exhaustion, perhaps, or a longing she did not dare to name. Her shoulders trembled, her breath broke. The storm outside finally matched the storm within. Through the curtain of rain, footsteps approached, slow, careful, respectful. Kellam emerged from the shadows of the trees, his clothes already drenched. He did not call her name. He did not rush to comfort her. He simply walked to her side and stood there, quiet as a promise, letting the rain soak through him just as it did through her. Amina did not look up, but she felt his presence like warmth in the cold wind. "I don't trust men," she whispered, voice cracking as if the words themselves hurt. "I know," he answered, his voice softened by the rain. She swallowed hard. Her hands trembled in her lap. "I carry something dangerous inside me. I've hurt people." Kellam turned his head toward her, not in shock, not in fear, but with a steady, unwavering calm. He did not step back. He did not question her. He did not judge. "Then let me be the one who shows you," he said softly, "that not every heart wishes to harm you." The rain fell harder, drumming against the river and the earth. Amina closed her eyes, and in that moment, for the first time in many years, she allowed herself to lean, just slightly, toward someone else. That night, she let him follow her to her hut. Inside, The lantern glowed softly, painting warm hues on the clay walls. They sat close but not touching, speaking in low voices as the storm rumbled above. They talked until the flame flickered thin, about grief that had no name, about hope she never allowed herself to hold, about the years she had lived behind invisible walls. And Kellum listened, truly listened, not like a man waiting to speak, but like someone opening his heart to carry a piece of hers. For Amina, it felt as though the tight shell around her chest began to crack, not painfully, but like clay dissolving under rain, revealing the softness beneath. When he finally leaned in and kissed her, the hut stayed perfectly still. No wind rose, no shadows crawled, no ancient force stirred. Only warmth blossomed between them, quiet and gentle. Caleb took her hand, his fingers intertwining with hers, as if he feared breaking the moment. "I'm not here to use you," he murmured. "I'm here to stay." Amina breathed out slowly, a breath she felt she had been holding for years. Something within her shifted, settling into a place she had never known existed, like a stone long carried finally finding rest at the bottom of a calm river. Outside, in the misty darkness, the voice of the old woman drifted softly through the air. "He with clean hands shall pass." Amina's eyes filled again, not with fear this time, but with recognition. She had survived the unthinkable. She had healed wounds no one could see. She had been broken, reshaped, and strengthened. And now, at last, love had found her. Not the kind that demanded or consumed, but the kind that waited, listened, and soothed. A few days later, Amina and Kellum celebrated a humble but radiant wedding by the River Kale. Women wrapped in bright fabrics sang ancient songs that echoed along the water. Children ran in circles, laughing, chasing each other between the roots of the banana trees. The elders nodded with quiet approval, and the wind carried the sound of joy across the orchards. The river flowed gently beside them, as if blessing the union with its eternal rhythm. And so, Amina and Kellum stepped into their new life, woven with peace, strengthened by trust, guided by healing. They walked hand in hand down the soft earth path, the storm behind them, the future before them, living happily until the end of their days.